I mean, this is another one that you also have, and I think this is. I mean, this is something that I'm sure you have a lot of other. But for the most part, if it has like polyester,
Oh yeah.
like non natural, I know that I have some stuff that has it. Like one of my '70s Brooks polos, I think
Same.
is a cotton poly blend, but I still
Oh,
really like that thing.
OCBDs, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, same here.
OCBDs. Yeah,
Yeah, I also have.
but
I think I'm
generally
pretty.
with like jackets and stuff like that, I just try to avoid.
Yeah, tailoring. I wouldn't want any kind of polyester in
Yeah,
there.
no, yeah, same.
I
I
mean,
say that wearing a cotton poly tracksuit, but that's different.
It's
I
that
yeah, I
is
feel like
different.
I feel like it is different. Like if you're wearing like obviously my workout clothes have polyester in them, you know, it's one of
Yeah.
those things or like easy pants, I think. I mean, I know that there are easy pants that are pure fabrics which are great. But my easy pants from Uniqlo are like they're like modal cotton or something like that. And those get a pass for me, you know? Like that's okay. Cuz I like those pants. But if we're talking like dress shirt wise, um, like trouser wise, I'm not gonna get it. Of course, I'm sure Kyoshi will probably be like, like if you're buying custom clothes, that usually isn't an issue.
So there's a bit of there are some, especially with cottons. I do have some stuff from like Lord Piana or Xenia that are pure 100% cotton, but
Right. Okay.
they also, you've got a lot of the Italian mills that will also offer a little bit of stretch, like 3 to
Put a
5
bit of
percent
elastane in there, right?
Um,
Yeah.
I will say from experience, the elastin does kind of help with the creasing not being as bad. And it also helps the fabric have a little bit more recovery. That said, for most guys, it's a matter of them wanting, say, a slimmer cut, but then also being able
Being
to still
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one thing I didn't like about the elastane, is it seemed like a cop out to allow you to
Well,
wear
yeah,
clothes that
because
were too tight.
I don't personally like. I mean, this probably goes without saying, but I don't personally like stretch fabrics elastina because I like how 100% natural fibers.
Yeah, and age over time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. I think it's also I think one reason too is that I guess at least Spencer and I and probably all just like a fuller cut in most stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so we
Yeah.
don't necessarily need it to be
Yeah, the
slim
elastin
and
doesn't
movable. If the suit we're getting is like a wide leg trouser, there's no need for it to have stretch because then what's the point, you know?
It's also the idea of
already gonna
embracing
move.
wrinkles too, right? Because once you put in some
Yeah,
fabric,
yeah. That's
I
probably
love a good
one thing
wrinkle.
too.
yeah, you lose the
Yeah.
ability to be slouchy. It's always
Yeah.
crisp and
But
proper.
again, this is more stuff. The point I was making was that I think for most people, who are more like Spencer and I and all just is that we buy on eBay a lot, so a lot of these things will factor into buying something that's vintage or pre-owned or something, as opposed to say like if this was like the other side of people who are buying from Drake's or from you or getting something made to measure from you, Kyoshi, where you know you don't really have to think about it too much. I mean, even then, I think stretch from Laura Piana is probably still better than stretch from H&M or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Absolutely.
not as big of a deal in those kinds of things. So, I mean, again, I feel like easy pants, like if it was like a super casual garment, I wouldn't mind stretch in there. Um, because the Uniqlo has it. But if it was like again like a dress shirt or something, I'm like, I'd rather not do that.
I like those dress shirts I sent in the Instagram, the and collar, and they're like,
Oh no.
it's like they're waterproof, fireproof.
Oh my god,
Well,
I
they
saw the
weren't
best
actually
ad. I
fireproof,
saw the
but-
best ad for like pants today, where it was one of those pants where it's like, oh, this is like hydrophobic, soda, water. But it was my favorite. It was my favorite ad of
spilling on
one of
yourself?
these
Like,
because it's like the guy in the ad was kind of doing a joke that I do whenever I see those, because he was like, I spill on myself all the time. And he's like, I'm spilling
I'm a
water.
clumsy little
He's
girl.
like, I'm pouring water on my leg all day, and it's not even a problem.
I piss my pants all day.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's
guess
the
what?
inside. That's inside. What about outside? I mean, that's kind of a bigger issue there.
Guess
Nope.
what? The pee never escapes.
Yeah.
He never escapes.
Just runs down my leg.
Oh, But I mean, no, like that's kind of like a big thing too. I mean, obviously Spencer and I aren't buying a lot of like, like I don't know what those brands are. Those like hashtag Dapper Man kind of like
Mhm.
Instagram company kind of stuff. But I always was wondering, like, elastane, stretch, polyester always feels weird. Like it just feels not right. And I feel like, even if it's comfortable, it's still hotter, right? Because like it's a fake fabric and it traps heat more so.
Well, I think it just depends on how much elastane. Some places go way
Yeah.
too far. Some things like I don't mind. Like there's some pants I have like 1% elastane in them, and it just gives them a little bit of elasticity, which is good. Like when I'm at work, when I'm like working retail, I'm up and down a lot, so like it's nice to have pants that it will stretch a little bit, but like I don't wear them like in public.
Mm.
I don't think I've owned anything. Oh, I guess my Atelier Fugues are stretch cotton, but I don't really feel that other than like the arms or something because they're kind of fuller cut, so I don't really get
Yeah,
the
and I think
desired
in the
effect.
fabrics, I think they were only like 1 or 2%. I
Yeah,
know.
I mean they don't feel like a
1 or
lot, but
2% seems to be somewhat common, actually. Even
Yeah,
like
the fabrics we have now that have any stretch in them, it's like 1%. Like the cotton book I have, it's like if it does have, it's 1%, which is just like a little bit. So like most people wouldn't notice.
right. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where when you feel like how broken in 100%
Yeah,
cotton denim jean
exactly.
is, you can't go back. I
Yeah,
think.
Yeah.
and that's another thing that comes from buying a lot of vintage is one, a lot of the stuff that we were buying didn't have any because it wasn't invented yet or it wasn't just being used widely yet.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, with like workwear or like your vintage chinos or whatever, it's like the level of like comfort you get after wearing it. This is such like cliche
Raw
Reddit raw
denim.
denim
Yeah.
stuff, but I
Yeah.
mean, there's no comparing it. It's great.
Yeah, you can't. I know. Obviously, people just don't want to wait for that point, right? Which I don't. I mean, I can get it. People, they want instant gratification. But again, like it has to feel weird to you, like wearing something that's so hot because like I've worn non-iron shirts, back in the day before I got into like making my own shirts
Oh, they're
through makers and
awful.
stuff. So it's like, non-iron, even though it might not have polyester in it, it just feels it's literally stiffer. It feels
Yeah,
tougher, and it just, it doesn't.
coated in
It's one of,
formaldehyde.
like how does it? Yeah, they're dipped in formaldehyde or whatever, and it's like I get that you might look nice and proper, but how do you feel wearing it? Like it's all of
Well, the
these like
people wearing
Instagram
them
brands.
don't
they,
care
they
how
don't
they
know any better.
feel.
That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just told they have to wear it, and it's like, oh, your dress
Well,
shirts
because
must be cleaned and
and
pressed,
also, yeah,
and
because it's like most dudes are lazy, and it's like, oh, non-iron. You're telling me I don't have to iron this? That's great.
yeah. And I don't iron
Yeah.
any of my
Yeah,
stuff
and then they
anyway.
No.
wonder why these things, why dress shirts don't feel comfortable. It's because of
Yeah,
fucking stuff like that.
I
So
lied. I do a lot of my, but I mean, it's
I
like
don't
one of
iron
my
anything.
casual shirts.
I iron everything, but I don't really go too hard on it. But I mean, the point I was making with that one is like, one of my first shirts that I bought from Kamakura, I only have like a couple, I only have like 3 of them. But the first shirt I bought was in New York, and that was before they came out with like the soft ivy, the sport ivy one, and it wasn't non-iron, but this will get into a different thing that I'm sure Spencer and I will agree on,
Yeah.
is the concept of fused collars.
That was the next
And
thing I was gonna mention. Like, every
yeah,
shirt I
so
buy
it's,
has to have a soft collar.
yeah, and like
Same.
like or a very soft fusible or just no fusing at all, because I totally get it. Same thing. Even though you still have to iron a fused collar, it has this kind of stiff motion or stiff feeling where it just when you tie your necktie on or whatever, you button all the way to the top, it just feels weird. Like it doesn't breathe with the garment. Literally, it doesn't it doesn't soften up over. I mean, I guess sometimes it does soften up over time, but it's just
And also, I feel like it just
nothing
doesn't.
beats.
It just most of the time doesn't look good. Like
Yeah.
if a soft collar shirt gets a little um or if you just like pull it right out of the dry, it's gonna look it's gonna look frumpled. Well, is frumpled a word?
I
It
think
is
yeah.
so.
now.
Okay.
Um,
But if like a soft or a fused collar dress shirt, it does this thing where like the collar points kind of like fold up like eye.
Yeah.
Just can't stand that. It
Yep.
looks awful.
Yeah, and so I think for Spencer and I, when we're buying, like, if we're trying to look for like vintage Brooks Brothers OCBDs, or even like modern ones that come up on eBay every once in a while, if they say like fused collar or non-iron, we kind of tend to just avoid it because even if it's cheap, I mean, at least for me, even if it's cheap, it's just not worth it because
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, you're not gonna
it
like
just
it.
it doesn't feel good, and I think they're by us not buying into it, not only is it just for our wardrobe, but we get to kind of further that notion that you can still wear a non-iron, like a non-iron shirt or an unfused collar shirt, and still look good. I think a lot of people, especially some of my the younger followers that we have, are people who are not as farther along in their menswear journey, will maybe like, oh well, if I don't get that one, maybe I'll look sloppy or whatever, and or it'll look weird. But Spencer provides some great inspiration wearing a soft collared OCBD with casual stuff. And for me, I almost all my shirt collars that I wear with my tailoring are unfused. So
Yeah,
or
yeah. I interviewed at this
or not
company
iron.
once. I interviewed at this company once. I won't say the name of it, just in case they're watching this.
Okay.
Um,
One of the 7 people, yes.
and they decide they want to hire me for money. But
Yeah.
their like claim to fame is like their shirt collar, which is so stiff that it'll never like get all flappy. So that way you can wear it under a sweater, under your jacket, and your
Oh
collar always look
man.
nice and add attention. And I'm like, "Ugh."
I don't like any of that. I remember we had a client.
Ultra fused. Like this thing was
Yeah.
stiff. Like
Yeah. I don't like that. Especially under the collar. Like I feel like that's like, why do you want it to be so stiff under a sweatshirt or something like that? Is like
like it showed these
so weird.
pictures, right? It was like to show you the difference. It was like one guy was wearing a sweater and like had like 6 buttons undone on the shirt, I'm assuming, because like the collar which was like half underneath the sweater. and and he's like, you don't want to look like this guy. You want to look like this other guy who had his collar, like up to here, rock hard.
Rock
It's
hard.
it's just a strange association that a lot of modern guys have developed that in order for clothing to be formal and look good, it has to be absolutely flawless at all times. I
Yeah.
don't really know how that
Yeah.
started, and I
It's
don't
like the
know.
magnetic collar stays, the
Oh,
magnetic.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
See,
All
like
of this,
it
like,
needs to not look like you've done anything to it, but everything needs to be done to it.
Well, that's because
Yeah.
it's like it's just because it's more of a special occasion garment now. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Kyoshi's getting all those ads, right?
yeah. The problem is, I see one and I kind of hate click on it.
Oh
And
my
then
god, I'm the same way.
Oh,
And it
mhm.
opens the
no.
just
floodgates. Yeah.
target me for other crappy products.
Yeah, it
Which,
just opens
Oh,
the
man.
floodgates.
Resist the urge, Kershi.
Yeah,
Oh
like those
no.
shirt garters, which I
Uh,
can't believe exist. Or like I got this one for that belt. I sent it in the chat, in like the Instagram chat,
yeah.
where it's like that belt that's like not a belt. It's like I hate all these holes on the belt.
Oh my
You never
god.
know
The
where to
Ansel
put it, and I'm
belt,
like,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, like you never know where
Oh
to put
no.
your thing. Like you put it where it fits, like it's not gonna fall
I
off.
mean,
That
Kiyoshi had a good point earlier in the chat where it's like, this isn't being marketed to us, but it is so funny how many products there are that are solving like, and it's like
they're
clothing problems
Yeah.
that don't exist.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
And
mean,
it's always
that's how it is,
Silicon
right?
Valley coming to the rescue for something that's
Yeah.
not a problem. Like I got this one thing for like Jot like coffee, and it's just like a shot of espresso you put in a glass of water. I'm like, are you that much of a little bitch you can't drink a cup of coffee?
Man, someone needs to HUD needs to get in on this. HUD
It's
cannot do
like
this.
it's just like
Yeah,
oh,
guys, keep a
it's like
lookout for Ethan and Spencer's newest endeavor, Cud.biz. It's our startup. KUD. Check it out, guys. We're gonna get some merch out there. We are officially
like
canonizing Cud
Yep.
for the Sound Direction universe. Okay, it is an inside joke, as much as I have for a long time, that we are finally going to bring
yeah,
out.
Silicon Valley comes to the rescue for problems that aren't problems.
Mhm.
I can't
Like
wait for Silicon Valley the show to come back, and then you're gonna see a little Cud logo in the corner, like, cause it's like KUD, baby.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, on the subject of, like, this not being marketed to us, I mean, that's important, but I feel like the sad part is that it makes it harder for guys who are like-minded, like us, whether it's vintage, whether it's modern, tailoring, whatever, to kind of have options, right? And I think that's, this is a little off topic, but I
They're
think
taking
that's
the
why.
joy out of everything.
Yeah. But I think that the classic menswear world kind of at that point kind of becomes like, well, if you know, you know. So it's like a rite of passage for you guys to get to this stage of like, oh, look at us with our high-waisted pleats and our comfort pants and our cool sockless loafers, right? But it's kind of I wish it was
White
we saw more options out there for people to kind of get stylish or
I think
whatever.
it's like I think it's one of those things, and I don't know if this is just like a weird um
Mm-hmm.
kind of superstition that I have, but I feel like most of the time, like like I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this when I was watching like some random cooking YouTuber or whatever, and he has this big ad grilling
Okay.
special.
I just use my bare hands.
Yeah, exactly. Or like meat
Grill out.
like Bluetooth meat thermometers and all
You
this
know,
like fancy
I have
gear
never used a meat thermometer in my life.
that I'm like
I just touch it.
it's
Yeah,
like
I just touch it, and I'm like,
Finger
fuck, if I
right
die, I
in
die.
it's like
Yeah.
people who are like really good at grilling like don't need any of this stuff.
No,
And
I've
it's like
never used a meat
yeah, it's like all there's like so many like fancy gadgets or whatever that are just kind of like tricking beginners into thinking that this is what the
Yeah, and it's like they're just they're just trying to solve problems that aren't problems if you're just like good at what you do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How to use an existing tool properly to do a certain job. Like I think one of my favorite things like related to cooking was Alton Brown on his show Good Eats. He called those kind of things unitaskers, where they're only good
Mhm.
for one very specific purpose. He's like,
Yeah.
you need a unitasker in your life. He's like, maybe a food processor, but that's probably the only one you really need.
My
He's
food
like,
processor also can knead bread, so like,
that's awesome. I need
boom, I can. Yeah, I got a little blade. It can like knead dough and make bread. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll take that. Here's my money. Never used it.
But anyway, non-iron shirts and fuse collars, and that's kind of again a thing. It's kind of a thing that we, Spencer and I don't really do, and especially for me because I don't. I think I just commission shirts now. I don't really buy off the rack or vintage stuff unless it's like a sports shirt or something.